Hello, I'm Siddharth Das. I have been working for the last 22 years or so as a curator, designer, and educator. And of that, I've spent a large chunk of time working with more than about 2,800 craftspeople across about 15 states of the country. Uh, I'm going to make a little presentation talking what I'm calling it crafting stories. And this is a gist of these incredible collaborations that I've had with traditional craftspeople and artists across the country. And it also tells you a little about how these stories are in completely different contexts and heritage sites. With that, I'm going to share a little presentation. I started my studio about 20 years ago, and in the kind of the last the blip that we've had in the last 1.5 years, if we ignore it, it's been an incredible journey of doing about 100 projects across 8 countries. And the first professional project was with Matan Singh, or Mapu as we call him. And I just wanted to give a kind of a background as how I basically got into this and how the kind of trajectory that I've had, and how incredible it's been to meet a lot of these craft communities and also people and projects and how they've kind of interlaced. So with this exhibition that was done, completely conceived and curated by Mapu, it was on Khadi, the fabric of freedom. And, to work with people like Rahul Jain, Rita Kapoor Chisti, David Abraham, Rakesh Thakur, and Vikram Sardesai, to create this incredible, beautiful textile exhibition, which is showcasing khadi, handloom, hand-spun cloth. So starting from that, it went on to doing projects and working as a part of the Victor Albert Museum. And this was an exciting internship that had happened in 2003 and 4 to create this exhibition of encounters, the meeting of Asia and Europe, 1500 to 1800, and working with curators like Anna Jackson and Amin Jaffer, who were at the V&A. This was an exhibition which showcased beautiful palm leaf manuscripts, Amar Shataka, at the Museum Riedberg, curated by Dr. Eberhard Fischer and Dinanath Pathi. And being a fellow Odia, it was very exciting for me to see these old historical palm leaf engravings, which naturally is an incredible, where there is not that division between craft and art, which often is there in our modernity and in a kind of a Western approach. So it's kind of interesting to see how that has occurred, especially in this beautiful environment of Hasum Kiel and the center of Zurich, which used to be run by the Museum Riedberg. In the same premises, there was this exhibition of pankhas, and I'll come back to it later again, which was curated and designed by me, and is part of the JD Center of Arts collection. And the entire collection is started by Jatin Das. And the idea was to show how beautiful these crafted objects are, even though they come from a diverse range of environment, milieu, and created by completely differently skilled craft communities. And here they almost float and levitate almost as if, gesturing towards the idea of summer. This was a public installation project in the Chiba prefecture near Tokyo in Japan, and it was with the Wackle Art Center. Tsutoma Okada was chief curator, and it was very exciting, where I collaborated with Golak Khandwal, the artist and architect, to create this idea of a public space installation. One of the most exciting things has been to create museum spaces. And how does art, iconography, craft really completely gets, again, blended into each other. This is the Jodhpur Museum, which was built in 1936. And we had the privilege of, curating and redesigning the whole museum. And the whole idea of historic sculpture and contemporary sculpture, later in the talk, you'll see how the same thread of cultural continuity that runs through iconography is something that I was very lucky to work with. One of the projects was Jal Mahal, and I'll talk again about it later. This beautiful 19th century site in Jaipur. And I worked with Vibhuti Sachdev and Mitch Kreitz on the whole interiors of it and conceiving a lot of the art and so on and so forth. One of the exciting other projects was interpreting Puri and Lingaraj temples of Orissa, and basically how this occurred in India International Center. One of the other projects we did, which has less to do with craft and culture, but is something that we are very interested in doing, is institutional design. This is the design of Indian Institute of Art and Design in Okhla, which used to be more like a textile workshop and was readapted to become a design college. And this is how it looks now when it's done. And then spaces which are more temporary, and again bringing the whole element of art, craft, film, music together in a space. So you have Elise Robstad and Ryuki Elias and Raghavendra, the musician. So theater and music, coming in together. This is a private residence in Ahmedabad, where a lot of art and craft came together. You have these beautifully crafted marble lotuses with a brass spout that I had designed and created, which was reminiscent of many other things that are done like that with lotuses. But also you have this amazing sculpture by Radha Krishnan in bronze, which is behind it. And we conceived a lot of installation. This was more just a scenographic element. And then, doing some installations at the airport. This is the Bangalore airport. Again, I will talk about this later in my presentation. And this is the ubiquitous Tree of Life. I've always wanted to do a Tree of Life. So again, from the same private residence, we created this beautiful Tree of Life. I say we because there were 10 amazing artists, 5 from Srikalahasti Kalamkari painters, and 5 from of miniature art artists from Jaipur. We created a studio in Delhi and had worked on this for about 3 months. So first, it started by just creating a series of albums of how flowers and leaves and compositions of stems and branches and how they emanate from it. And this is painted on tussar silk, and it's about 4 meters high, with almost about 300 different flowers and leaves, and about 275 beautiful leaves of gold of 24 carats, which in the veins of a lot of the flowers and the leaves. And when the light shines on it, they kind of sparkle almost. And then there have been amazingly exciting livelihood projects. So this was with the Tripura Bamboo Mission, a project that was started by one of my most incredible professors and who went on to become a dear friend, MP Ranjan. I think there's a whole host of us from NID who owe so much to him and his wife, Aditi. And this is a project where I worked for about a month every year for 3 years. And we created a whole host of bamboo objects made by the craftspeople of Tripura. And this actually was featured in a book that the Victor Albert Museum brought out later on. Here we coalesced the working of potters, local potters who created the pot. It became the kind of on the mold on which the basketry was done. And you see the light, how it travels across the open things, because one of the most beautiful things of the basketry is that how you almost have this warp and weft in the basketry, but often you forget how it is done. So I wanted to express that. And then, books that happened. This was, I was very fortunate to work with Leila Taibji. She was the first person I ever worked with when I was 20 years old. And after about 13 years, when I was about 33, I got a chance to work with her again. And I was actually, I felt a bit awkward about my name being on the cover. So I hid my name. Somewhere on this brown wood is my name for photography and design of the book. So Leila was editing this book, which told stories of 11 women, 11 incredible women who worked with textiles across the country. And I got a chance to photograph about 3/4 of those stories, and traveling to Adilabad district to see Uzrama's work, or Kashmir to see Jenny Hasgo's work. And then, Runa Banerjee started Seva, and Paolo Manfredi's work with her. So a whole host of different things, Kala Dera, so a whole host and exciting, journeys. And from that book, I wanted to also show the book that I had recently done of Nandita Das's, which is based on a book, which is based on a film on Manto, a beautiful poignant film. And the book talks about the journey of that film and the stories. So through a photographic almost journey, which beautifully, eloquently written and very kind of takes you into how she created this incredible biopic film on a person who was very controversial, but who wrote very, very hard-hitting stories, Saadat Hasan Manto. And then photography itself, having apprenticed Raghurai when I was a 17-year-old, but also having the chance of, using the darkroom at NID. And this is a negative that I developed and a bromide I printed. Now we call it analog, but that was the only thing one knew then. So it was very exciting to see how photographs would emerge. Like you would go and capture something and come back to the darkroom and have it processed. And that led to writing a bit for magazines and journals and newspapers. And this was a great fun thing that I got a chance to do with Arts Illustrated magazine, where I wrote a travel column and had my photographs, kind of bringing alive some of the text that I had written. And this brings me to really why this thing that I'm sharing. And so largely the work that we do at our studio is to do with heritage and museum, culture and public spaces, art and craft and livelihood projects, art, which is visual and performance art, but also interactivity in digital media to tell the stories. So today, what I'm going to talk much more about is art and craft and livelihood projects, and how, how a lot of these disciplines and genres have got mixed up in how we try to portray them. So my first one that I want to talk about is interpreting Jagannath's temple in Puri and the Lingaraj temple in Bhubaneswar in Orissa. Being, again, like I said before, being in Oriya, one takes great pride, not only is it a beautiful historic temple, but it's also a sacred and living temple, and what does it mean in today's context when we are so polarized? But religion and spirituality is something which is so personal, and it makes us create something which is wondrous and exciting anywhere in the world, anywhere in the country. And these two emblematic temples are like that. So when we were tasked with telling the story of this, we went on this incredibly exciting mission of working with about 100 craftspeople, and there were large workshops, small workshops, individual craftspeople, individual artists. And this was an exhibition that was held at India International Center, and it will find its permanent home in Bhubaneswar in a space that we're creating. So I'll talk again more about this as we go along. Here you see, this was a gallery that was envisaged. And on the top of it, you have, right on top in the center, you have the Puri temple, which has been made beautifully in this Kumbhari wood, which is white cedar, the main temple complex. On the left, you have a part of the Bhog Mandap, which is, so if you see the central image, the leftmost part, the left facade of it, and here you have Ganga and Jamuna, which is at the entrance portal. And here you have a whole bunch of incredibly skilled and talented sculptors working on it in Puri, in the chondrolite stone, which is the same stone that has been used in the temple. So here you see the entire main complex Puri temple, and in the front you have the Bhog Mandap's facade, which is the hall of offering. And here's this beautiful photograph that was taken in early 20th century, which is at the British Library, because you're not allowed to take photographs inside. And as people who are tasked with creating a part to make people understand the iconography of the temple, it became very difficult to talk about iconography in sacred architecture if we couldn't really show small parts of it. So here I'd gone to London, got this beautiful image from the British Library, and we then had a basis at least to do something on. So here's this beautiful drawing that was made, like an architectural drawing. And we were very keen to have a very detailed approach to this, the kind of scholarship that went into creating iconography in the past, which is often not there. And we wanted to have that. We want to have that incredible marriage of research, creation, and then finally interpretation. So here you see a smaller piece, a miniature model, and here you see the larger model on the right. And again, you have the Ganga Jamuna that I described earlier, but you see a larger rendition of it, and the Navagrahas, the 9 planets on top of it. And then this beautiful wooden model of the Lingaraj temple was also being created side by side. And this is made in teak wood, again by incredibly skilled and talented sculptors who work in wood and stone, Hima Sen and Lakshmidhar, who have done an amazing job of doing this. So over 14 months, we created a workshop. We have 2 architects working with it. And here you see this lovely little time-lapse video, which shows the assembly of all the little shrines in the complex and the main temple complex that comes together. And here it is in all its resplendent form, which was displayed. And then I want to talk about the Jal Mahal in Jaipur. So if you actually go right to the west of Bhubaneswar and a bit to the north, you come to Jaipur. And there is this beautiful historic building, which was a pavilion made in the lake just opposite the Amir Fort. And we were tasked with the idea of creating an incredible interiors, but also conceiving a space that would celebrate the arts of the 19th century when it was created. So here you have this beautiful light that comes into the arches, and the idea was to create a series of these creepers, which would normally be created with in green leaves. I had made these little drawings of flowers when I visited different Havelis and palaces across Jaipur, from Pundarik Ji Ki Haveli to Amer Fort, Nahargarh, the city palace. And based on those flowers and drawings, these 7 miniature artists created these beautiful paintings, and which were done on the wall. And at a certain time in the day, when the light comes through the arches, you see how they really shine. And when it doesn't come through, you see they become this kind of yellow ochre, much less, much more muted. And we created a whole host of really incredibly exciting series of paintings. So here you have these celestial beings done again by this artist who was part of Shami Sharma's troupe. You have him. So we had, I had this idea that if we actually brought together 5 different styles of miniature art and how they rendered clouds, and you have this, almost this kind of density of clouds to, moving to less sparse clouds, and then these celestial beings, throwing water down. And this was a whole of the quadrangle, one whole side where we celebrated the idea of the monsoons and coming of rain. So you see this thing, and at the back you have another arch, which is a monochromatic silver, gray, and black clouds, and you have these large renditions of miniatures that Mitch Kreitz and Vibhuti had chosen. This was a part of a very beautiful large piece about the, I wanted to conceive this idea of the rains coming to the Jal Mahal, because we could never find a painting of the Jal Mahal. So here again are 7 or 8 artists who painted this whole beautiful thing over about a year. And before they started, I was very keen that if we could just create albums of trees, flowers, water, and the color palette, the mountains, the clouds, all of that. And only after that, once we really got a sense of it, how much and not more, and we want them to work on the painting. And this is how it looks when it was finished. This is a part of the painting. It's a 11 feet by 2 feet painting, beautiful, and the kind of details. And here you have the Jal Mahal right at the end, and that's at the center, where you have the king and the queen, frolicking, romancing, and music and all of that. And then we blew it up, and we had, again, some bit of overpainting the corridor, which has these beautiful melon-shaped lights, which we recast so that, we could play with the glass thickness, so that the way the light comes out and refracts would be quite beautiful. And even the brass chain links we cast them anew because, we made them sturdy and, much better clip, so that if there was a large dust storm, which was pretty scary for us with the lights, it would withstand it easily. With that, I want to go into kind of more transient things that were done. This is Carl, A Memory of Time, an installation that we created at the South Bank Centre in London, which is the largest cultural centre in the UK. And every year they used to do the South Asian festival called Alchemy. And right in the center, in the largest, which is the largest ballroom of the UK, 7,500 square feet, Globe Ballroom. And we were asked to do this beautifully exciting installation. So we worked with tailors, block printers, welders, to create this whole lovely piece, which gestures towards the idea of Baramasa, the 12 seasons or 12 months, and the idea of the love in those 12 months. So it starts with winter and spring and the long summer. And you see different things of patchwork, silks, to block printed parts, pleated parts, fusing. So, really using technology and craft, handmade and industrially made. But all of this was handmade actually. And the welded part on the top of, again, that beautifully jali-like fusing that has been put onto a Chanderi silk. So here it is when you can see through it, and that's the road that goes towards Waterloo Station at the back of South Bank Centre. And you will see the way the opacity works. The welded piece on the right really comes alive. It looks like a tessellating print, but actually is a welded piece, which you see over here. And here, these amazing, talented birdcage makers created this piece of welded art. And then we have block printers, we have pleating people. So everything was done apart from the welded piece in-house in the studio, but where we collaborated very closely with craftspeople. In the following year, we were lucky to again get a chance to do the art installation at the same venue. And this was part of what we call narrative geometries. There you have Judy Frater, the director of the center, inaugurating the thing with our installation in the back. The idea was that it alluded to the idea of, the mirage of these skyscrapers and the mirage of booming economy and, the incredible disparities and this thing that we all go towards, which is this allure of something much better. And it's the sun on it. And you have these kind of scaffolding like things made with paper and cloth on the top. And there are patterns taken from buildings, be it a jali, be it a pattern of scaffoldings, be the metal grid that is formed. And there was a whole host of performances that happened in front of the two installations. And it was great fun. So, a few 100,000 people got to see it and, use it as a protagonist for, if they were performers. And again, this whole play of light. So, when the curtains at the back are opened up, there's a lovely play of opacities. And then how it was made, and the entire thing was made by this lovely, lovely tailoring wizard that we had in the studio called Sanjay Ji, who, I worked with for 3 years. So here you see him, and he got a whole bunch of fabulous team of embroiderers who then did a little bit of turpai, and you see this kind of speckled piece that was created. A non-transient and a more permanent installation that we did was Ashtamangala, welcoming icons at the Bangalore International Airport, which was being developed at that point by GVK. So Sanjay Reddy, who was head of GVK, wanted to really create iconic installations that would herald Bangalore as the gateway to India, but also really celebrate the South Indian crafts. So here, the idea was to coalesce the Mysore painting style, which has the same parentage as the Tanjore style, but is less known than the Tanjore style of painting. And the kind of Chola style bronze sculpture tradition of Tamil Nadu near Tanjore. And the idea was to really create quite an iconically large piece. We come down this long new part of the terminal where international passengers come. So these celestial beings greet them, and the back of it faces where domestic passengers fly off, which has got a large Garuda, winged Garuda, welcoming them to the skies. So you have these 8 icons, greeting with folded hands, the visitors, and you have these celestial beings which have come from the sky down to the earth and are welcoming these visitors to the airport again. That's a closer. So being Mysore style, it's got gesso work, so it's got relief work, and we did that on a jackfruit wooden part. So these things would emerge as you came closer. You would have this great sense of optical illusion. And then as you came closer, you saw these beautiful bronze sculptures that came about. And how did we go about planning it? So that's the whole structure that holds it in place, because we had to work very closely with L&T that was making the airport, with CISF that was looking at security. So all of that, and the initial drawings, then making them much larger, and then you see the jackfruit piece being cut out and drawn out, and then placing them and planning the whole thing. So you have these beautiful large drawings that were done. Here you have MS Anand, who was one of our main collaborators, who led the team of Mysore artists. And then you had Sambandhamurthy in near Tanjore, who led the team of Chola bronze sculptors. At the same airport, we also did these craft-based flagship stores for the Bangalore International Airport, which are called the Lotus House. And we dealt very closely with Pinky Reddy, who was the patron and who had this vision of creating this craft-based store. So we worked with a whole host of amazing craftspeople across this South India. So we had Sadar Ali Granite from Bangalore. We had lovely lacquer pieces, which were like sleeves at the bottom of the furniture from Channapatna. We had these really beautiful kalamkari paintings done at Sri Kalahasti, and these woven saris which were done in Tamil Nadu near Tanjore. And you see a close-up of these what I called the birds of paradise. So we worked with 30 kalamkari artists who worked with Dwarka, the NGO based on Sri Kalahasti, Anita Reddy, who leads it. And over 6 months, these were created really beautiful panels, as you can see over here. And they use only natural dyes, Indian madder primarily, with smatterings of indigo and a little bit of turmeric, giving it yellow, and a little bit of green, mixing the yellow of the turmeric with the indigo of the blue. And these were really beautiful, and they almost hark back to the kind of 19th century kalamkari textiles that one found. And here you have those 30 women and 5 men who were part of this incredible journey of creating these beautiful pieces. And just I think seeing it come alive little by little, one can imagine the kind of excitement they and I felt. And I want to end this with the JD Center of Art, which is a museum of art and craft. So the whole predilection that one has of working with craft is in very different formats. So here is this building that's coming up, which is designed by Doshi, and Rohit Raj of Studio Vanro has played a large part in realizing that dream of Doshi's and of Jatin Das's, of how it comes. So this was a model which is a little imprecise, but gives an idea of what the building is like that's coming up, and what are the different levels of it, how does it house these beautiful objects and paintings and works within it. And as part of it, there's also an amazing festival of films on art and artists, where art, visual arts, performing arts, crafts, all of them come together. And it shows about almost 40 films from across the world celebrating the arts. And that's really to do with also the collection, because the collection is naturally Jatin Das's work, but also amazing works by other modern artists. So you have Himmat Shah's head over there, Souza's head. We have Chamini Ramchandran that we can see here, Krishna Reddy that we can see, Hussein's print, A. Ramchandran. So a whole host of people that one has grown up hearing about and knowing about. And then an amazing collection of Pankha, the fans, more than 6,000 such pieces. And then traditional crafts and arts, which are almost about 20,000 works, and traditional textiles. And I'm going to just focus a bit on the Pankha, because that has been the most kind of seen. So I talked about the exhibition that went to Museum Riedberg, but also how did we really interpret it? How did we talk about it? So a publication, a series of programming that would happen, and these lovely posters that were sprinkled across the country. So this is in Zurich. And the same exhibition, this was the most definitive exhibition that happened. You know, the collection has traveled from Manila to Washington to Hyderabad to Victoria Memorial Hall in Calcutta to London Fan Museum, so all over. But this was the largest and the most ambitious one, where we showed about 550 fans across 10,000 square feet of the twin galleries of IG and CA over here. And every Sunday we would do these gallery guided tours. So there you have Jatin Das, and on the right you have I, and we're taking a whole host of visitors who would come so that they would understand the nuances of creating an object and the materials and the romance of what it is, but also the literature and other things that came with it. And brought out a lovely publication. It was supported by the Development Commission of Handicrafts. We're very fortunate to have that kind of support and funding, and we brought out this beautiful museum publication. And the government of India brought out 16 postal stamps. So you have these 16 fans from the collection that you can get in post offices across the country. So it feels really lovely that, you know, how does craft, art, design, architecture, really they come together and they're seen everywhere. And with that, I would like to end my talk. Thank you very much. And I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. Bye-bye.